Do you want to plug into?
What meeting I do over? I think you just looked.
Melissa is
Oh,
on.
I know I did.
There's only two people here, you and me.
Yeah, okay. Let me put this back in. Okay. So if I'm coming to, I'm gonna come in this way for this time.
Sure. I can make you host, right? Because I have
You
to.
can start the meeting. You can go ahead and start the meeting.
There's nobody.
Doesn't
Okay, I'm
look
gonna
like it.
call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. This is the meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard. And it is a hybrid meeting, the select board, is meeting in the town hall with our interim town administrator, Gabe Volker, also in attendance. Grace Band, our town clerk, Tom Seeker,
Mateo's here.
Ken, and
see
Susie
him?
Mosier. So the first item on the agenda is to review the agenda, which I will do. We'll have public comment, and then under general business, be discussing the I've had some discussions with Senator Comerford's office regarding some legislation that she's going to be refiling to create a Quabbin Community Coast Trust Fund. Then we had also gotten a request to support school funding issues. And after that, Kenny Kim is going to be presenting on a proposed bylaw to make Shutesbury a sanctuary community. Then we will be discussing town meeting, the date of town meeting, annual town meeting, an update on the administrative assistant job posting, and then we have minutes from November 6th, November 12th, November 19th, and then
Oh, so not the right thing to do. Okay.
If you want to use mine.
No, you're good.
little feedback there.
Yeah.
And then, Dave, if you have any, town administrator updates.
Just a
for us
little.
At the end.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so public comment, we don't have a picture up on screen.
Well, momentarily.
Is there anybody here in the town hall who has a public comment?
So there's nobody. I'm also signed in. There's nobody.
Never happened before.
Is your speaker?
It's off.
It's off.
I can sign on.
No, don't.
He's on the same page.
So Mateo, we're getting a lot of run. We will be proceeding in the-
Mute your speakers.
They are.
Mateo, is there an echo there now? Mateo, can you hear
Yeah, I can hear you.
us? Okay.
All right, so Mateo, do you have any public comment this evening?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the first item of business is, we have this listed as discussion of Senator Comerford's request for support for the MWRA to create a Quabbin Community Host Trust Fund. And just a little bit of background, I had gotten a call from a resident of Pelham concerning the report that was done. So MWRA did a study of the Quabbin and did a report that was issued at the end of November of 2024. Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. Thank you. And they did a study to look at extending water service to the Quabbin Reservoir watershed communities, and there are 12 communities. And this study was in response to our legislators saying, gee, you know, those watershed, all those 12 communities provide protection to the Quabbin Reservoir, but don't get any benefits from the reservoir. So none of us get water from the reservoir. And they had, this was, I believe, the third study that they did. They also looked at whether or not they would extend water service to kind of the North Shore of Massachusetts and then a group of South Shore communities. So they did this one for the 12 watershed communities. And there was a very mixed reaction to the report because it really, it was not particularly realistic in terms of what the opportunities were. It was massively expensive, and in the case of Shutesbury, when I read through some of the report, in the case of Shutesbury, it only talked about water for the center of town, and that was still like $212 million. I mean, it just seemed totally unrealistic. Well, it would be great if we could get water out of the Quabbin, just the mere fact of having to pump it up to the top of the hill and then treat it, and then it doesn't make any sense. So what Senator Comerford had done in the last legislative session was she had submitted a bill, and I believe Representative Saunders was doing it on the House side, to find a way to compensate the watershed communities, the Quabbin watershed communities, for being the hosts of the Quabbin, including, you know, the fact that kind of all that land that's underneath the Quabbin is owned by the adjoining communities. So what she is she's going to resubmit the bill this year. It kind of died in committee last year. She's going to resubmit it this year, and just some of the highlights of it, it would establish what's called a Community Host Development Trust Fund to be credited with $35 million annually from the MWRA. The fund would support local municipal needs and nonprofits serving the health, welfare, safety, and transit needs of these communities. Additionally, the bill requires the MWRA to make payments in lieu of taxes. So that this would be in addition to the payments in lieu, which we already get. That's actually for under the reservoir. And then the bill creates 2 additional seats on the MWRA Board of Representatives from Hampshire, Franklin, and Worcester counties. Right now, the only Western Mass person is, I believe it's the town administrator in the town of Munson. I looked at their board today just to see. So, you know, I think it's probably the most realistic option for, you know, for Shutesbury to be able to get some of those trust funds, and what the organizers are doing. And, you know, my contact from Pelham was saying, you know, we as a community need to express our support. Now, the bill hasn't been filed yet. I believe filings have to be done by January 17th. What's today, 15th, did I say? 14th. So it will have, you know, it will have a number. And I think what probably makes the most sense, I didn't have time to draft anything, and I just had the conversation with Elena Cohen from Senator Comerford's office today, but that we wait until our next meeting, and then I can prepare a draft letter, because we might want, and I need to double check on this, you know, we might want to also send something to the MWRA basically saying, like, this study didn't do much for us, but this, this trust fund could potentially be a really great resource, and that we would support it. So that's where I was gonna leave it for today, and just make sure that everybody, that you two are on board with, with doing that, and then we meet again in 2 weeks. Yeah, we're not meeting next week. So I will go ahead and get something drafted, and then we can go from there, and maybe by then I'll have the bill numbers too. The next item on the agenda is, we had gotten a request from Senator Comerford's office about support for school funding, and I know I got it, I assume the Finance Committee. Susie, did you?
I saw it, but
recall
I'm not
seeing
sure
it?
if it came through the committee.
Okay. I don't know who else saw it, but they were basically asking for municipalities to write letters of support for the increased Chapter 70 funding. I went ahead and did it myself because I know that they were looking for individuals. I don't know, they were asking, if you could take pictures, and it was, it was more like, can we make this a grassroots effort? But, so what I would encourage everybody to do, I think sending as individuals, it was very clear, here's who you write to, here's what we're looking for, and I went ahead and did it. So I would just encourage everybody else to. And then it's to make sure that money's in the governor's budget, and
You want to do anything as a select board?
well, why don't you do it individually, and then for at our next meeting, I don't know when the governor's budget comes out.
End of January, so.
End of January, so we would have time, what's today, it's 14, 21st, 28th. Yeah, if we, unless you want to authorize Gabe to just send a letter saying that we could do it that way.
That'll be fine with me. I mean, I would
Okay.
think timing wise, that might be better.
Okay, all right, it's
Make it
sooner,
happen.
all right. Do you recall, Gabe?
I
if
did
you-
get an email from her
You did,
in support, so it's probably the same thing you
it
got.
is, yes.
We'll just follow the.
Yeah, if you just
the
follow
flow
sort of
on that.
their guidelines about
Yeah.
what they're looking for. It's, yeah, you need more money in Susie can attest. Susie, did you have a?
Yeah, and I sent a letter to Maura Healy at the beginning of the month, and in the meantime, the federal rural education aid was left out of the American Relief budget that got passed in December the 18th. And so that represents a $16,000 plus cut to our elementary school funding. It's been a process to figure out what year that affects. It looks like maybe we're okay in 2025, but it's this whole, so when we talked to Aaron Saunders on Monday, he said, whatever goes on with this new federal administration, the state cannot backfill the whole thing. So where there's holes, there's holes. So one of my requests in the Healy one was to support the rural aid boost from 16 million to 60 million. And we already know in this shell game, we've lost some of that because we've lost some of our federal aid for rural education. So it's not only the Chapter 70, which Bill has said it's time to review that, which is good. It is also the rural aid at the state level is a sort of an established platform. So if we can get that to be boosted, that will, and our state rural education aid was a little less than 80,000, because anyway, a little less than 80,000. So that's a place that if they boost it from 16 to 60 million, we will definitely benefit. So that should be in the request. That's already possible. The whole Chapter 70 thing is a long haul. It won't happen this year, I can tell you that.
I think she did include rural aid. if
Well,
I'm
I
not
wrote it down. I
mistaken.
can add
Yes,
that
and
to
in the, so,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so, the next item on the agenda is the discussion of a proposed bylaw to make Shutesbury a sanctuary community, and I am gonna turn this over to Penny Kim, who has joined us this evening.
Thank you. I'm here to sort of seek your guidance and gauge your interest. Recently, both the town of Amherst and the city of Northampton reaffirmed their status as sanctuary community and a safe city, respectively. Joe Comerford is refiling a bill that's called Safer Communities. I don't know the text of it, but she also referred me back to the Amherst bylaw. So I'd like to ask you as a select board if you would like to consider adopting general bylaw to designate Shutesbury, or to ask the town if they would like to designate our town as a safe community. Why? For two reasons. One is because of general principle, and the second, there are a lot of specific reasons that we would want to consider, but I'll just offer you one here. We live in an area where there are many people related to the university, etc., or other schools who have lapsed visas, perhaps, like a student visa. This is a small example, but a lapsed student visa, someone who has a legitimate request in for asylum in this country, but has been totally stymied by the huge backlog at the federal level to process these requests. So there are people without status that shouldn't be. So what am I talking about? So the commitment in the neighboring towns is that no town officer or employee act as an immigration officer to the extent possible by law. And this is in non-criminal, related to non-criminal requests and ones not supported by a court order. And this is all relative to a particular individual's immigration status that comes to the attention of the town officers and employees. A lot of language, there's a lot of language in what I've begun to read. How would we go about it? We have examples of the bylaws, and I think we can use Amherst, and that's what Senator Joe suggested as a basis to formulate our own. I think we would not need anything as elaborate. I think we would be looking for something that's pretty general and non-technical, because again, our interests aren't as complicated, or our needs aren't as complicated as, for example, Northampton, where there's a lot of activity going on. So I'm just here to ask if you all would like to support moving forward on this, and if you say yes, then how does a general bylaw get brought to town meeting? Many of them come out of committees or whatever. But the general ones, for example, like a noise bylaw, I don't know where that comes from.
So, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, town clerk, that with a general bylaw, the select board could vote to put a bylaw on the town meeting warrant. And then the other way is through citizen petition, which we've had, to, pass a bylaw such as one that we did back at the special town meeting, having to do with non-citizens being able to vote in Shutesbury.
That was a home rule petition,
It's a home
not
rule
a bylaw.
petition.
So
Okay.
it's a separate process.
Because that has to go through the legislature.
Right. Yeah, general bylaws can be proposed by, can be added to the warrant by the select board or by a citizen petition, saying this. Any other article except for zoning articles, which have to go through a specific process.
Yeah. So what I would say is that if there was a bylaw drafted, that it could be brought before, the select board. And then, we're gonna be talking in a few minutes about when town meeting is gonna be. But that we have it, a month in advance of town meeting, so let's assume by the end of March. That we have the language so that we could review it, we would have to vote on it, make changes, have town council review it. But, if you can simplify the one that Amherst has, because I assume it's complex, but maybe it's what we need. But, have somebody take a look at it and see, and then it could be brought before this board, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
you
think
good
so.
with that?
Yeah, that'd be very good.
Well, I have a couple of questions. I think the citizens petition sounds like a good route because you get people involved.
That's-
However, the petition would be asking, I'm not sure it would just ask you to pass an attached bylaw. I think not only takes 10 people to sign off on a petition, so I think it would be more appropriate as a bylaw to come from the select board on the warrant. So I'm happy to work on putting together language. I would suggest that, and I had mentioned maybe an ad hoc committee. I don't think we need committees, but I think we need a few people who are interested and would know, especially the chief, police chief. I would like to, if there is a small group of people to work on it, then I would like to ask if it's possible to consult with Donna before it comes to you, so that, or again, if it is.
Maybe because of that question you just asked, Penny, maybe we should have it a little bit earlier if we want it, because Donna will be really busy with other things.
Yes.
For town meeting all the
Yeah.
time, so she
Yeah,
supports,
I'm
so
ready to
maybe
start.
even a rough draft.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's better if it comes from us than working directly with Donna. So if you give us a draft early, then, and especially if it's been passed in another community and approved by the Attorney General, that.
Right.
And I also, and I think your other question was consulting with Kristen or whoever else you might want to have read over, and so I think that's.
We need to have a small group to work on a draft, and she would be the most important person, I think, to represent town employees and officers.
So she shared with us this, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this legal advisory, it's legal guidance for Massachusetts chiefs of police regarding legal limitations on the handling of federal civil immigration detainers as established in the 2017 Mass Supreme Judicial Court decision, Lund versus Commonwealth. I can share this with you, take that. And I think that outlines what police chiefs can or cannot do. I certainly, we don't need another committee. Not right now, we're committed out. What I would say, if you want to have not a committee appointed by the select board, but you want to have an ad hoc group and then consult with Kristen, I think that would be helpful. It might be worth having a conversation with her. And then, I think if we were to get it early, so let's shoot back, and let's say the beginning of March. That
Just
would
if we
be-
want to bring in Donna, just so
Yeah.
she doesn't get
Yeah.
too busy.
and the sooner we have something for her,
Would you suggest other people in town who might
be interested.
important as we're representing the interests of officers and employees and.
If you don't want to be appointed to the committee, then
We shouldn't suggest.
Yeah.
You might want to talk to Kristen. She might have some ideas. I talked to Mateo, just because he did some of the work that he did around,
There's no real other stakeholder committee.
there really isn't anybody, else that I can
There's not
think of.
a finance piece to this.
No.
Because we aren't
No,
able to
and
offer
again,
services, so.
that would be
Yeah.
a committee. And
Yeah.
it doesn't, the open meeting law does not prescribe a a specific method for how committees need to be
I was just kinda
constituted.
thinking
So
out
like
loud.
if the select board is deciding we're gonna designate these people to do a thing, then it's.
Yeah,
up
we're not
to
doing
us.
that. Been there, done that.
Okay, you can whisper.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I wanted to be just not new draft. or
Sure, oh,
something,
yeah,
but,
yeah,
you know,
no,
sitting in
and, I can give you a couple of names of people in Pelham who have been doing something similar.
Oh,
So,
Okay.
that might be good folks for you to
Okay.
talk to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, see you before the beginning of March.
Yes, before the beginning of March, so you have like 6 weeks, right? Yeah,
No, we're in February, in between.
yeah, six weeks from
Yeah,
now.
we're always several weeks ahead.
Yeah. Always thinking ahead.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we'll look forward to seeing something from you. And I would say, the other thing I would make sure is that when you come back to us with a draft, if there's like supporting documentation, Q&A, questions and answers, like what other, and I don't think it's stuff you have to create, honestly. I think it's probably, you could probably find it from other communities that have
There's a
done this.
lot, there's too
Yeah.
much to.
Yeah. So it's just kind of weeding through that to say, because it would be useful for us, but then it's also going to be useful for town meeting, for people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, the
And we
Q&A
might
would be
even
great.
want to have an informal hearing or discussion for people to think about it in advance, or whatever.
Yeah, well, typically we, I don't know if I'm trying to remember what we did last year. I think we had something before town meeting with the finance committee, and then something on the articles. So it was just giving people from the community an opportunity to like hear about stuff before town meeting. But I would say, we don't typically get a real large turnout. So the more concise information there is, such as a question and answer piece, I think that would be really good for folks to have. Okay, good, we look forward to seeing that. So, I will get you a couple of names. So the next item on the agenda is setting town meeting date. So as per our town bylaw, town meeting date was set for April 26, 2025. And we've had some discussion about moving that, and actually had some discussion with the finance committee. And I take responsibility. I sort of broached it in part because I felt like this year, we're having a lot of catching up to do, and that at the last regional school joint four-town meeting, it was clear that we're always waiting on Amherst. And unfortunately, Amherst is later in their decision-making. And this is going to be a really tough year for the regional school budget. I think it was like $1 million gap, didn't we have?
Something
Or more, something of that. I mean, it's not just like a made-up number, it's real. And so there was a lot of discussion, and Amherst is, town of Amherst was kind of digging in its heels some, where I feel like the other, Susie, correct me, and Eric and Melissa, you guys were there too. So the sooner we know, and we got into this situation last year where we were passing the budget in the absence of knowing what Amherst was going to do. So anyway, we talked about it. Gabe raised it with the finance committee, and they were okay, but not to move it later into May, but rather May 10th was the date that was agreed upon. Subsequent to that, Grace expressed some concern about moving the meeting, and I'll let you speak to it, Grace, but I'm just going to summarize quickly. Because in the town street listing, there was an insert, and that comes from the town clerk's office, that stated that town meeting was going to be April 26th. The select board does set town meeting date, so,
So our bylaw sets that meeting date.
yes. But
The select
we,
board has the authority
Sorry,
to
to-
vote to change the
right.
date of it, but our
Right.
bylaw
Who
sets
sets the
town
date.
meeting date.
so we can change the town meeting date.
Yes.
So we have a mailing out there, and so there would be some costs associated with making the change, and Grace can speak to that. I guess the question for us is whether or not the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of changing. So Grace, I'm gonna hand it off to you to just.
Right, so if we change the date,
Yeah.
because I already sent this letter that includes to every household in town, which includes the date of town meeting and the date that nomination papers need to be filed. Because what we're focusing on right now is not so much voter outreach so much as it
Right.
is candidate outreach.
Right.
And that is equally important when we're talking about our local elections. So what I would do if we're changing the date, because I already sent this date out to everybody, and I know a lot of people throw the letters away, but a lot of people also read them and then rely on them to keep the facts straight. I would want to send a second mailing out, not to every household, because sorting that out would be complicated, and the process would probably end up taking 2 weeks to do a mailing. What I would do is I just send an individual letter to every registered voter, because the easiest thing for me to do is print out mailing labels of every registered voter, which I can easily do in a few minutes with our computer program, and then stick those on labels. I could either buy new envelopes to do that, which I don't have a practical way to do right now, or I could use the envelopes I have on hand, which would wipe out my supply for the rest of the year.
Can I make another suggestion?
Yeah,
What about a town announce?
town announced, less than 600 people are signed up for it right now, I think. Town
Code
announced.
Red has more.
No, none of those methods are gonna compensate for mailing every single household a letter.
What about just ordering plain envelopes and sticking stamps on them?
That would be more expensive,
Why?
because then we're buying the envelopes and the stamps separately.
But you're paying more for those pre-stamped printing. Envelopes, the Philharmonic.
I'm not talking about pre-stamped envelopes, I'm just talking about envelopes that come with prepaid postage. So they have the stamp with the postage, but so I can either use the envelopes I have on hand, which I have enough envelopes on hand for that, but it'll wipe out my supply for the rest of the year to do it's 1,500 envelopes, 1,528 as of today.
There's no additional printing for them to print the postage on? Like, so a few?
I don't have the numbers on hand, but from experience, when I've done added up the numbers before, it's way cheaper for us to order the envelopes from USPS prepaid than it is for me to get envelopes and then also buy a bunch of stamps. And then there's also the problem of me having to drive to different post offices to buy up all their stamps.
I know you can order the rolls of stamps from the
Yeah,
post
we can
office.
do that.
And I know you can get the envelopes from the Franklin County Jail. Amherst would have them.
Yeah.
They do envelopes. So they could do them with our address on them.
From the Franklin County Jail.
They
Oh,
do
jail.
envelopes. We
That
do.
wouldn't be something I would be comfortable with.
Why? They're cheap.
It's just a solution.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that would be an option to consider if we're doing it. The point is, I would want to do this mailing, that would add a significant cost. It would, either way, postage is gonna be adding another $1,000 to the budget for this. At least, if we're talking about 1,500 envelopes.
Couldn't we do it in the way that we do the town newsletter, where we send it bulk mail? That's cheaper than sending an envelope.
We could,
Because that would be less.
we've never done that with the town clerk. The town clerk's office has never done that before, so it would be a new thing. It would be something to
Well, this doesn't have to go to, like, I'm thinking of my husband and I, we don't need to receive 2 of them, we only need
Oh,
one.
no, you
so-
do. You know, I can't, because we don't just have households. This is the thing. There are 2 ways to do this kind of mailing. The mailing is the one thing. I can figure that out, how to do that, and that would be my job. It would just be a significant money and labor expense any way we do that. No, I couldn't mail.
You can't
Like
mail
every
it, right, so
Because it's
every household
specific
would get,
voters.
yeah.
And, you know, if I know somebody's in a family, yeah, I can stick all those things in one envelope. But we also have houses that are all college students living together, and there are privacy concerns.
Well, this is also, but this is just a notice, it's not I'm just trying to understand. This is
What
more
I
of a
would,
bulk
what I
notice
would
than
do,
it is
if we're going to change the information and we're doing something different from the usual process. So what I'm planning, my plan, if we change the date of town meeting, is I'm gonna send a mailer to every registered voter in town with a vote by mail application with the new date already entered in, and their voter information already entered in, and a new
So you're
letter.
combining mailings, because otherwise you would.
Right, I would be
separately.
combining, it would be a new mailing to correct the information and because I'd already sent out this mailing to every household. So if I don't provide the same information at the same level that I already provided, then it would be a problem.
So you already mailed out the mail.
It was for the street list,
I haven't been there.
yeah.
I know, nobody opened the envelope,
I did.
but I still
filled it
have to
out.
do the thing.
I filled it out and threw the rest of it away.
I know.
This is my pet peeve with mailing out all those newsletters and all that expensive,
They did
because
right
the end of it,
the first day I
recycling.
got
But also, a lot of people don't put them in the recycling bin, and a lot of people use them and refer to them throughout the year.
So we
A
have,
percentage does.
we have $1,700 in postage. We've only spent $238. We have $3,000 in printing and advertising.
So it can be done.
It could be done.
We could do it.
Okay, are there any other impediments? You
The
said
only
something,
one question I have is, if we're changing it from April,
We're changing it by 2 weeks. I
I
honestly,
mean, what?
I don't know what
If
much.
we do
of a
that,
difference
here's
that's
my question, if we do that, do we have any more, do we really have a guarantee that we're gonna know any more information?
No,
from the
gonna
ownership?
make.
no, we do not.
Oh, probably not.
What, Tom?
I wanted to ask, I thought I'd witnessed years where a town meeting got changed twice. And I
Yes.
just wanted to ask what happens if it actually doesn't occur on the 10th.
Well, what you do, you can
Or just-
recess, you can start the town meeting, and then you can recess to a later date.
Sure thing.
And there was one year where the town meeting date got rescheduled twice. So historically, Shutesbury has always had a set date for town meeting. Things got weird in COVID until 2023. We were still under the general state of emergency, and so the town meeting was getting rescheduled every year. In 2024, we went back to our bylaw, which was updated in 2019 to set our annual town meeting date as the last Saturday in April. So 2024 was actually the first time we used our bylaw, which was passed in 2019. And now we are talking about not following the bylaw again.
Okay.
I would suggest again, because I brought this up last year, since we keep changing the date till later and everyone feels like April is too early, we should revise the bylaw to set our town meeting date as probably I think I suggested last year, the third Saturday in May.
Either that or.
Because we always run into conflicts in the beginning with May with Pride.
Right,
And we lose a lot of people to that, which was why we changed the bylaw in the first place.
right. And it got earlier and earlier. I think we should definitely look at revising the bylaw. Could the bylaw say at a time as designated by the select board, but before June 30th?
I would not be supportive of that if we don't have a set date for, so one of the problems consistently for the last few years has been the date for town meeting has been set at the last possible minute.
Mhm.
And that has constantly changed the deadlines for candidates and voters.
Okay,
I need to be able to coordinate with the state and with our election vendors, which we don't have many. It's pretty much just, but I need to be able to, print our ballots and proof them early enough to get them to ES&S for our automatic ballots and to Omni ballot for our overseas and military voter ballots.
okay.
And that gets a lot more complicated if we don't have a set date.
Okay.
Could it say something like this, not necessarily this language? Could it say something where town meeting date would be what you said, by the
Yeah.
select board, and by a certain date, if not, then it defaults to May 10th, or whatever the date is?
Yeah, I mean, we could do
Well,
that. I don't think
the
we need
state
to-
law already says that the date has to be before June 30th.
Right.
Well, I was just, right, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if we have where we can prevent it from moving too much.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is.
But then
this or
again,
that.
you don't, the deadline, every single deadline changes based on exactly what date. Every deadline that's calculated is based on counting back the
Right, but if
days
we-
from election day. So
But
if
if
you
we-
move election day by one day, that changes all the deadlines.
But what I was saying is to have the select board set the meeting date, and then if not, it defaults to a specific date. So say if we don't set it by January 1st, or whatever we decide, or whatever it is, then it automatically defaults to.
It would have to, because the town clerk office really needs to know the election date by December.
Oh, December, I was just thinking.
So,
Okay.
but that when we, over the last few years, that hasn't been how this works.
Right. So let's separate out the bylaw revisions, and we should have a discussion about that, maybe at our next
Yeah,
meeting,
put it on
about
the
what,
next
what
agenda.
changes, and just anticipate that that would be something that we would do at, town meeting. So I'm gonna put Susie on the spot as the only representative here from the Finance Committee about what the Finance Committee discussed and, about moving the town meeting. Does that help the Finance Committee in any way,
Well,
or?
our discussion was in the context that we were being asked if we could, what day we could move it to.
Two, okay,
It wasn't if we have to move it.
yeah,
It is always hard to come up with a budget before, for instance, the state didn't come through till August or September. So we always are juggling Joe. It always produces a lot of anxiety. This year is really hard because of the change in administration and the flow of information is different. And so people were jumping at the chance of delaying this, but I'm not sure that by delaying it, we're really gonna get a more solid budget. So there's already begun some entering into the budget sheet, so we're seeing what kind of demands are here. The revenue is always a guess. We won't know much about the revenue. And I don't believe what Amherst decides. It's an interesting dynamic that in fact, the three towns, not including Amherst, will make decisions before they come through. And they don't like being forced, but hey, we have to make a budget. And so I'm not sure that there's a really clear advantage to the FinCom other than pushing it off.
Having a little more time.
And put, you know, but in fact, we have to sort of, where the rubber meets the road, time has to happen. So that's gonna be, it's gonna produce anxiety. That's what we get to hold, is that anxiety. And y'all have been on those committees and you know what that feels like, so.
Right.
But I don't think 2 weeks is gonna change that anxiety that much.
I would ask, because my first thought, anytime we're talking about scheduling for elections or town meeting, specifically annual town meeting, is moderator availability and school availability. And I think Paul said it wasn't great, but
He was available.
he was available.
Yeah.
Has
And then the
anyone
school.
checked in with the school about May 10th? It's before the end of the semester, I think,
Yeah.
but I don't know
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on with
yeah,
the school
yeah.
schedule. That would be a good question.
How many weeks before
Because,
then?
yeah, because that would be, because if the school's not available, then we don't have
Have
any
you,
other options.
have you checked with them about April 26th?
No, but I did tell them at the beginning, when I met the principal, we had a
Yeah.
conversation about it.
Right.
But that was when she first got hired, and that was because I thought we were sticking with the bylaw, and I did make the plans.
It's usually available. It's not usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Saturday,
shouldn't be
it's
on
not
a
Friday
Saturday.
night.
Yeah.
It's just something we have to check.
So what is your, Gabe, do you have any, want to weigh in on this at all? Given what you've observed from the finance committee discussions and town budgets, and is 2 weeks gonna?
2 weeks won't really, I think you can have the meeting and not have a budget and just reconvene in the fall.
Yeah.
You may have to do that with state. We don't know the cherry sheet numbers, they could be, they're unknown. I talked to Maya, they're not even ready to give us numbers. Like, you're talking about February. So for me, the pressure, exactly what Susie said, it's the pressure. And 2 weeks isn't worth it. Originally, we were kind of going for the end of May, but that didn't work out for the FinCom schedules, and I respect that. 2 weeks probably won't make a difference.
Yeah.
But it will, you will not have a happy budget, let's just say that.
Because it'll have to use a 12-month thing until
Yes.
it gets passed.
Yes.
And is there any reason it couldn't be in August? Or-
No, there's none. You can
So you-
have a town meeting and put what you have in place, no saying that you're gonna come back.
And
It doesn't make people happy, costs more because you have to have another
we
meeting.
have to have another meeting, but
So
Paul and
you're
I
paying
have
it one way or the other.
suggested this before, splitting
It's
our
like do the
our
budget, the
annual
money
town meeting with
budget.
our finance meeting, which is what a lot of towns do, splitting those two meetings. And the town said, when I've talked to town clerks who have gone that route, they get a lot of positive feedback about splitting the meetings. It makes them shorter.
Do they usually
Which would be
split
good
it
for
to
us.
do the budget in?
Budget in fall usually.
Oh, okay.
But that's kind of a bigger city thing,
Yeah.
and we're a small town, we're subject to the
Hadley does
June
it.
30th
Hadley
deadline still.
routinely does it. If you talk to Gail Weiss, Hadley routinely does it, splits it and finishes it in the fall. And they're a small town. We think they're a big town.
Yeah.
They are.
They think they're.
Very
So do you
small.
just do a 1/12 budget from the current year? Is that how you operate?
I don't
during
think
that?
so. I would have to ask Gail how they do
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Because she did it for them for years.
All right, so,
Well, given that,
yeah,
being able to split,
yeah.
I think then we
Yeah,
can keep that for the election and.
leave it to the leave it at the
Right,
26th.
and then push
leave
the
the
budget into another one.
Option open to do the budget.
Why not?
Separately.
Then you'll have
And we
potentially better
can-
numbers.
We can always have special town meetings
Yeah,
if
right.
we need
They're
to.
so much fun.
They cost money.
Yeah, they do cost
They,
money.
oh,
And they're
know.
not fair to your residents because they don't get a lot of people out at them. I
Yeah.
don't know about your record here.
Oh,
But
well, yeah, no,
typically,
I mean,
A lot of
we-
people think you're
we do
sneaking
have,
things by.
so Shutesbury, we have pretty good turnout comparatively speaking for all our town meetings.
You should explore
But-
Saturday for that finance.
Yeah,
Otherwise, some people aren't gonna come because.
And we need to talk to the finance committee about that, about splitting it, and how you guys would feel about that.
there might be, I would have to research it. I don't know if there is an MGL. I vaguely remember there might be an MGL about the procedure for splitting your meetings. But I would have to dig into that. So there might be some extra procedural steps for that, but I can look into it and get back to you, send you guys some information. by
And
the
you
end
can
of the week.
also recess too, right? And
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
just-
yeah.
So that's another way of doing it.
Now, it's a
just-
little weird because Paul's announced he will be resigning, so there would, I can think of a few different ways that might be able to work if you recess the meeting and then a new moderator is taking office within the interim. But that would be another thing that I would research this weekend, probably ending up asking Donna about that.
Okay. All right, so, I think we already voted to set the date as April 26th, right? Do you want to do it again? Sure. We have. Sure, yeah, sure.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
our fourth member over here.
Look, worst case scenario, you already did, like, you didn't already do it and we don't do it right now. That's the worst case scenario.
Just because I don't want to step on Shutesbury toes, I don't know your policy. Can they open the warrant tonight?
Oh, absolutely. We don't have, we don't have any,
Policy.
our bylaw
opening the
is
warrant.
our town meeting bylaw is super minimal. The warrant, guys can accept stuff for the warrant.
So
whenever
what you
want.
would do is you would set the meeting at April 26th.
Okay.
And you would, the motion would say, and we open the warrant
Oh, okay.
tonight.
All
So, because bylaws have to come in, it gives people the opportunity to give us what they want on the warrant.
Okay, great,
And-
sooner
And we
rather
need
than later.
sooner. If
Oh,
you do in
okay.
April,
I
and you've
will-
got a new TA coming in.
The one
you
thing
have-
is, any bylaws to be submitted to the select board, any bylaws must be submitted 45 days before annual town meeting, which is, if we're doing it on the 26th, March 26th,
45 days?
45 days before,
Isn't that only 30 days?
That's only 30 days.
before March 20th. You're right, I've got two sets of numbers
So it's
on this map thing, so.
It's about March, it's probably about March
It
15th.
is, 45 days
March 15th.
is
It's worse.
March 12th, there we go.
But if the select board submits the bylaw,
Then,
They can do it up
Yeah.
until
yeah.
you post the bylaw, which is technically
Post the
7
warrant.
days before, but please
Post the
post
warrant,
it
right.
earlier than that.
Okay. All right, so do I hear a motion to open the warrant for the Shutesbury Annual Town Meeting, which will be held on Saturday, April 26, 2025, starting at 9 a.m. at the Shutesbury Elementary School? So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Stover,
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Farrell, aye. Thank you, Grace, for coming in. I learned a lot through this process.
Well, now you guys get to benefit from my equally complicated
Yep.
vote by mail with this date. So look forward to that.
Okay, thank you.
But it doesn't involve any envelopes.
Both sides
Sounds
now,
really
no
cool.
envelopes, I like that. I want to hear that.
So you have to do it in the mailing?
No, that's what I'm saying, I'm not
Yeah,
doing
there's
a
no
mailing.
mailing, right.
I'm doing, because I already got the dates out.
Yeah.
And I can, but I am gonna, make cool little vote by mail, pull this thing off and apply for vote by mail with a QR code, thanks to Leave It Cushman, Leverett, and New Salem General Store.
And we'll have some discussion with the finance committee, or maybe.
That's
Gabe
why I'm
about
also
it.
gonna be I'm gonna go to the general website and I'm gonna be talking to the other town clerks and letting them know I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks, Susie.
Yep.
Thanks. All right, so next item on the agenda is just an update on the administrative assistant job posting. Is it up?
I don't know.
No, I didn't do the.
We need to write it still, right?
Yeah, we didn't go over the job.
So we're
Okay.
gonna pass on this and get it up.
Okay,
You guys had told me, I had told Gabe that she and I were tasked with doing it, and then we
And
didn't.
then the week went by,
Okay.
unfortunately.
all
So
right,
that's our fault, we'll get to that.
okay. Yes,
Could we, so just a quick idea is posting that job ad specifically on the UMass College Job Board ad, which is a free place to post job ads, and might be a place to find really good,
Yeah,
appropriate people for that
Yeah,
specific
great.
job. Which is just my 2 cents, that's all.
great, thank
We
you.
also wanted to post it locally in hopes of getting local people, possibly
Yes.
Shutesbury.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it could be sent out as a town announcement.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Yeah, on top of
Yeah.
the.
Okay, great, so we have 3.
So apologies there, if we're,
I'll think about forgiving you for that.
Originally, I don't know which agenda you're working off of, but the October 24th minutes you already approved.
Yes,
So you only have 2 if you had a chance. I know I sent them late.
I thought we had 3. I thought we had the 6th, the 12th, and the 19th. Am I mistaken? Did we do one of those already?
I'm gonna put the 19th on the next agenda,
Oh,
because I just got that one.
I know, I read through them already.
you did?
Yeah, I mean, I had them.
You
Did
can vote it if you want.
Did you?
I don't think I did.
That would be easy on me.
Okay, it was in an email.
Yes,
Maybe I did.
Geneva sent
Geneva
it.
sent them. All right, if you haven't looked at them, we can wait and do that at the next meeting. So I have November 6th and November 12th. All right, do I hear a motion to approve the select board minutes from November 6th?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, any edits? I did go through them, I didn't find anything.
No, I think I was okay with those.
Okay, great. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye?
Starker,
Darrell, aye. Do I hear a motion to approve the November 12th minutes for the select board?
So moved.
second.
Any edits?
No.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye?
Starker,
Darrell, aye. And that is it, except for just, you have any updates for us, Gabe?
Just a couple. We suddenly have been inundated with resumes. So I keep adding resumes to the packet.
aye.
So
Wow.
Thursday when we meet, I think we're gonna have 10 of them.
Wow.
So that's a good number.
That's great.
Good.
So that's a quick update on that. The PFAS, we have our next group of letters that we have to send out. And the good news on that is we got everything into the bond council. We've got our green light red letter. That was what I spent last week doing. It worked. And now we've copied all the invoices. All the invoices have to go to the Clean Water Trust. They have to approve them and review them. So we've got those all photocopied. So we're on a roll. So it looks like Greg Levine or Devine told me that, you know, he was gonna push through as fast as he can because this has been on hold for over a year. And so he was really excited that we had it together.
Yes, thank you
And,
for
yeah, so
getting that done.
it was such a good feeling to hear him
Yes.
say, and then when Ryan emailed me and said it passed the bond council, we were like, yes. So I'm really
Great.
excited, that's a good thing.
So this, just for those of you who don't know, you know, we had gotten approved for $150,000 loan from the Clean Water Trust, but they have been waiting on us for a long time to submit a bunch of documentation, so we haven't gotten the money. And so Gabe pulled that together, and we were at risk of not getting the money.
Yeah.
But did you say that there was the possibility that we could get some more?
There
money
is
from
a
that?
possibility, we have to look at how, that's why they want to see all our bills.
Oh, okay.
Because we have an ongoing commitment to these homes, 70-some people's homes. There's an ongoing cost to that. That's the next step I have to figure out is what the ongoing cost is. So he did say that they are willing to lend us more if we find that we need it to sustain the program.
Yeah.
We have we're kind of a pilot program here. We have a lot of homes in a rural area. We're kind of setting the standard. Other towns are finding PFAS, New Salem is, other places, but we're kind of the people that are breaking the ground on the whole thing.
I remember somewhere along the line, I can't remember who said it, but we were ahead of the curve in identifying.
Yeah.
some of
Right,
the-
and so he said there is a possibility of more funding,
Right.
which was very good. It was a wonderful thing to hear, especially with our school budgets and the other things that we're dealing with. So that is, your next TA will have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And keep a pulse on what it's costing, but Geneva has just done a fabulous job in coming in and getting those letters out.
Oh, that's
and-
great.
And everybody working together on it, so.
That's fabulous.
That's pretty much all I have.
Okay.
So can you just remind me on that funding, like what are we, I mean, what we're getting the money, but then do we pay it
Yeah,
back?
yeah, it's a 0%
It's
loan.
0% loan.
It's
Right,
a
that's
0% loan, and we more or less told them 10 years, so it's a
Okay.
$15,000, I thought it was $150,000, there may be 2 loans, I don't know.
There was only one
One
loan
loan.
that we voted on, was
Okay.
150.
Okay,
Right.
so he was happy with that, and he told me it was 0, and there's a possibility of forgiveness.
Oh,
There is
yeah.
a possibility of
That's not so bad.
forgiveness. So, we are not, doing what's called taxing the homes of the people with the problem. We're taking full responsibility of the issue. And so that's another positive on us being able to possibly get more money, because it's a town burden that's shared by all. So I really feel positive about it, and I've worked with Greg in other towns. He's always been really good, so it was really good to hear him be positive about Shutesbury.
Well, thank you for getting this taken
Yeah,
care
it's really
of.
good. Oh, yeah, really.
It's like, phew.
Yes,
I
yeah.
really feel good about it.
Yeah.
So I'm moving on to working on the budget now and trying to get the numbers for the FinCom. I had put that on hold, trying to get this buttoned up.
Mhm.
So other than that,
And any progress on Zoom?
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Why, how I could forget that.
Well, obviously they have, so I question you.
Zoom is being launched tomorrow
Oh, wow.
at the department head meeting. It's all ready to go. I had my first training with the Board of Health today, and she's all set up and running on her own. Buildings committee is next. So people will need to come and train with me, because they're gonna have to book their own, open their own. And I have a whole chart that I'm giving the department heads tomorrow, and whoever comes to the department head meeting. Grace is gonna have to help me get all the people I don't know about. So what we did, just to give you a quick recap, is instead of assigning Zoom accounts to the town admin and to FinCom, we have 5 people we set licenses for. The rest of them are called Meeting Post 2, Meeting Post 3, Meeting Post 4. So I have a chart where if you meet on Wednesdays, you're assigned Meeting Post 2 or Meeting Post 3.
Oh, that's a great way to do it.
And Meeting Post 4,
Very
so that
good.
you're splitting the Wednesday people up instead of having 10 people trying to vie for the same night. By doing that, I had a lot of space. So when you see the chart, you'll see that Mondays are open in a lot of these licenses.
Right, because there aren't any Monday meetings.
Right,
barely.
but
Yeah.
a committee might say, well, that would be better for us than trying to get on Wednesday nights with everybody.
And competing with
And
everybody else.
competing, and
Yeah.
Tuesdays. And the other thing about setting it up as a meeting post number is they all share the same passcode, and you
Okay.
know how many committees are using that post. So instead of Grace and I going, oh, did you get historical commission covered? No, I
Yeah.
haven't. I need to cover them over here. Oh, no, I need to run home and turn on building.
Right, right.
That stops all of that nonsense.
great.
And they'll all have their own sign-in, but the thing is, when they sign in, and I'll go through this with the department head meeting tomorrow, is the first time they do it, they have to get a code. And I want to get a code with them, so that it really helped today to do it with Catherine Hilton and work through it. And then she went home to test drive it
Oh,
from her
okay.
own computer.
Yeah.
And that's what, I don't want people to wait till the day
Last
before their
minute.
meeting.
Right, just
Yeah.
right.
So anybody out there that I got a lot of responses to my Zoom survey,
Yeah.
what nights you're on, but a lot of small committees didn't respond.
Mhm.
And so those are the ones that aren't assigned a Zoom thing. So Zoom is live, it's working. Mateo's had no issues with land use clerk, and he's
Yeah.
got 4 committees.
Yeah.
So he's been running now for 2 weeks with no issues. Kathy's our first one tomorrow, Kat, whatever you call,
Yeah.
however you name her. She's our first one tomorrow night at Wednesday that's running on her own. And then the rest are just, tomorrow they're gonna get it all. And, so I'm excited.
Great.
That's
Thank
great.
you very much.
Well, a joint effort there.
Well, I kind of laid the idea,
Right.
you've taken it.
Yeah, no, thank you
That's
for,
great
Really
creative with
yeah,
the.
it's great.
With the posting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very great.
Just a couple of other quick things and the update variety. Before we were starting, I was thinking about we typically send out a newsletter before town meeting, and it's always been paper, and Janice Gray has been the editor, and everybody's had to submit to her. She's not gonna be able to do it anymore, and so we need to decide whether or not we're gonna try to do an electronic newsletter, and that might be one way to do it.
So that's a suggestion I think that I had made a
Mhm.
while ago is, and with listening to how much postage is costing us, and I do appreciate that there are some people who do hold on to those pieces of paper, but there's also a larger number, I think, that do recycle them.
Right.
So we are essentially generating something to give to the recycling man, which I'm sure is happy to take all the recycling. But I think that might be a good place to try it, and it can be formatted slightly different, right, so it's not in a booklet. I'm happy to help in that effort and get it,
We just have to figure out who would do it, and I don't know if there's a town volunteer, or if we try to,
So New Salem, to
Yeah.
bring up another town, has what they call the New Salem News. And it's electronic, and it comes out once a month, and everybody who wants it signs up for it. And it is a volunteer, they put it out, you send them what you want them to put on it, just like you would to Janice now.
right.
And they send it out electronically, they don't pay for its distribution.
And who does it?
I'm not sure, but I'm thinking if we ask them how they do it,
Yeah.
it might help us not recreate the wheel.
Right.
And it could be something simple.
And then we just tell everybody, because we've been posting the warrant,
Uh-huh.
and not sending that out, and just, we bring copies to town meeting, but, we post it on the website, and
It
then,
could be something easy, if it's not that hard to do, that your new
Right.
administrative assistant
Yeah,
can do.
yeah.
Gather all the info.
get the reports.
It could be really, I mean, it could be.
It doesn't
mean
have
the
to be
annual
hard.
report or
No, the
not.
annual report is a separate thing,
And that, we're talking about that
Yeah.
tomorrow,
okay.
because that's my next.
Okay,
But the newsletter itself can easily be done into a PDF,
Yes.
right,
right? And
Yeah.
then,
and just made, really, I mean, I would often find the other thing just hard
I have
to
to
read,
say,
going,
yeah.
I never read New Salem's,
right,
but my husband does.
okay.
So I think it depends, the same thing with it coming in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of us read it,
Some
some of
people
us
would print
don't.
it out and then say, oh, I'll read it, and I can't sleep.
and I think you can have a newer format so you're not breaking
Yes,
articles up.
exactly.
You
I
can
like
do
the fire.
so you could have a page size
Yes.
newsletter.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
And there's a
complicated.
format. No,
okay,
it's not.
well, let's approach it that way, that would be great.
I'll look into that for you guys.
I'm gonna add this one slight caveat is that, maybe we work with the council on aging, because they would know if there's people that don't have internet or something, who may want it.
You
mailed
could
to
print and mail
The geezer.
10 or
Yeah,
something.
they sent their
The
Gazette
Gazette.
to Gazette,
Gazette.
yeah.
them. Just because I think that that's a part of the population doesn't have internet
Yeah.
throughout their whole
Okay.
demographic, could,
Okay,
but anyway,
all right,
it would reduce it anyway.
yes.
One question I have relates to sort of communication is, we passed that letter last week, I think, about the DCR letter from the select board.
Yeah.
And we said we're gonna carbon copy your file, with Joe Comerford and blah, blah, blah. Do we do that? I didn't do it.
Oh,
What do you
I
mean, do we-
mailed it.
Oh, that's fine. Mailing is
We
fine.
can send the CCs,
Okay.
yeah, we can just copy it and send the CCs to the other people.
Right, I mean, but I just want to make
No,
sure.
you don't
that-
have to do it. Yeah.
But like one of the things we said, we were gonna tell the Conservation Commission, and I can't remember what it said in the letter, but
Okay, well, let's look at who the CCs are too.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace and move on.
Aye, aye,
Oh, yeah,
Farrell, aye.
Farrell, aye. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Good time.
Yes, yeah. Good time was had by all.
Yeah,
Why not try something
people don't like it. That's the only people don't like it.